We do have Professor Femi Otubanjo here with us. He's a public policy analyst. He's also a professor of political science and international relations at Christland University, Abeokuta. Good to see you this morning, Prof.
Good morning.
Well, speaking about your international relations component or perspective, what do you think of this unfortunate loss now of Mugabe?
Well, a man who dies at 95 cannot be considered unfortunate. He's died at the ripe old age. Mugabe was a man of historical contradictions, a great liberator, fought the whites and got independence for his country. Unfortunately, he became an oppressor of his own people. Every time I had the opportunity to be in the same room with him where he gives lectures, he's a very cerebral man, one of the most brilliant African leaders we've ever had. And one of his legacies is that he fought for economic emancipation, for empowerment of his people. That is to his credit. The liberation struggle is to his credit. But in the nature of African leaders, they develop a messianic complex, a God complex, as if I'm not there, nobody else can do it. And that, as what has dented his legacy, he stayed too long. He left office at about 93. I mean, that's incredible. Zimbabwe became independent in 1980, 2013. You can calculate that. Yeah. He stayed too long. He was too old for the office. I'm not sure that for the last part of his years, he knew what he was doing. He must have been manipulated. He had a younger wife, and everybody credits her for manipulating him.
Well, his family will always want him to be around a little longer.
Yeah,
so
yes.
But speaking about what's going on in South Africa now, because some of them think that it's a fight for economic emancipation.
Yes.
Do you see that as such?
Well, that's the bottom line. It's the failure, and that's the bottom line all over Africa. It's the failure of governments to deliver on their promises. You know, the language of liberation is the language of El Dorado. When you are doing the liberation struggle, you give the impression that when we drive away the oppressors, everything will be wonderful. We will all be comfortable. But it has not been delivered in South Africa. Some videos are trending, and you see these riffraffs who are holding machetes and rubber tires, telling you gleefully how they are going to kill foreigners. You know, Mr. Remu said something that was very valid about the demonization of foreigners. That during the struggle against apartheid, foreigners were working in the mines, in agriculture and so on. And it was convenient for the apartheid rulers to demonize them, to set them against the South Africans. And that demonization has not, that mentality still persists. And so you find that Africans from other areas are considered to be the enemy. In actual fact, Nkrumah said it long before. He calls it Afrophobia, not xenophobia, in which he predicted in South Africa that ultimately the South Africans were going to turn on Africans because they will perceive them as taking the opportunities for empowerment. But those opportunities have not been activated, or they do not exist. The situation in South Africa today is what Obasanjo described in the letter that is trending as the gulf between the Dallas lifestyle of white people and the squalor of the underclass in South Africa.
In the case of South Africa, pardon me, so if Africans, or other African nationals, are not the oppressors this time around, so who is the oppressor, or what form is this oppression taking?
They are not fighting oppression. They are fighting for economic opportunities. They fought against Malawians, Zambians, Zimbabweans in 2008, 2009. Nigerians just suddenly joined their catalog of targets because of our own abrasive lifestyle.
So I'm saying that what should be the real, so what should they face headlong? If we are not the problem, obviously, so what should be the challenge they should try to solve?
No, it is the government. It's a problem. Is the internal problem of South Africa, the economic management, just as it is the problem of all of us in Africa, our poor economic management. Unfortunately, one of the legacies of Mandela was that of compromise and conciliation. leave things as they are and let us develop. The Africans have not developed commensurately. The whites still have the edge. They still control the economy. And they still bring in laborers from wherever they can find them.
So I'm wondering, sir,
Yeah.
what is it that the South African politicians sells to their people
Yes.
that makes them to vote for them? Not, I mean, forgetting what you're saying now, that look, South Africa is said to be the second biggest economy in Africa,
Yes.
yet there is such squalor, as you put it,
Yes.
you know, just not too long ago.
Yes.
What is it that they sell to their people that will not even encourage them to get out of their poverty and get into some economic emancipation?
Don't forget apartheid. You will never apartheid, slavery. They are dehumanizing processes of history.
Apartheid ended in 1994.
Oh, that's what you think. The psychology does not end like that. They are dehumanized.
So you don't defeat an ideology
Yes.
just like that.
Just like that. You don't change it. You have to work on it.
So
and
what
the way to work on it
Yes.
is to give them economic emancipation. It is not.
How?
It's not.
How
it's
will
not
that happen?
advertisement. It's not.
How will that happen?
That to improve, to grow the economy and get them involved. Unfortunately, that is not happening sufficiently, rapidly enough. That is the problem.
You know, one of the things that's, you know, videos that you have also seen
Yes.
is the high rate of crime.
Of crime.
And how that there's not just high rate of crime, brazen crime.
Crime is brazen crime.
In
Yes.
the entire environment and all of that. Yet, the government is aware of these things. And isn't there anything the government can do to at least help their people to see economic potential that other Africans see?
Yeah, well, they see it, but maybe they are powerless to change the situation sufficiently.
Who is powerless
You know,
now?
when you find that you need reforms that are difficult to bring about, if the economy is in the hands of foreigners, of the English and the Afrikaners, and so there's a limit to which you can speed up things.
Let me take you up on
Because
this.
to get them up, you need to take drastic steps that will take away from those who control and give to those who are oppressed.
Okay,
That they cannot do. Yes.
I'm wondering why. Let me take you up
yes.
on this, sir. In Nigeria,
Yes.
whenever people see that the economy is not going the way we want, we don't take on ourselves. We don't take on other foreign nationals in Nigeria. We take on our government until we ensure that that government does what we want.
Yes.
Is it out of place for South Africans to do the same, take on their government and make sure that their government gives them what they want?
Yes, well, they are doing that as well. You know, they have labor unions. They have organized labor unions who do the fighting. But you are talking of the hoodlums, the underclass, the people who are living in the rural areas, who have no interaction. Sometimes the interaction with strangers is very limited, who have what might call cultural naivety. They don't believe in mixing with other people. There are many factors apart from their economic deprivation. When you now see Nigerians riding some of the flashy cars, the South African Minister of Foreign Affairs went as far as to say Nigerians are into drugs and they are harming their young people, using their secondary school children to be drug peddlers and prostitutes. And so, and you take their girlfriends. Those little things, they matter. They create tension. At the end of the day, somebody spreads the news and the insecurity of one person becomes the insecurity of the group. Yes.
You mentioned something in passing,
Yes.
which is also very important because, I mean, even as far back as first as Nkrumah's prediction,
Yes.
and now you also speak about what Africans do,
Yes.
going to bring in other nationals to develop the economy. Well, on textbook, they may not see anything wrong with it if they've got the expertise, but
Yes.
it could have a big implication. We've seen Asian companies now coming in with their nationals.
Yes.
Some of them expect them to transfer technology or knowledge.
Yes.
In some cases in South Africa, they
Yes.
say by force.
Yes.
But does this have a bigger implication? How should we approach this?
Well, we have to be a little bit more rational. Let me put it this way. African governments, particularly in relation to China, happened to be somewhere where there were many more nationals who were complaining about Chinese investment in Africa. Generally, there's a failure of governance in Africa. And we need to reconsider how we approach this interference or influx of foreign support. The Chinese particularly are beginning not just to come with their money, but with their people. We are hoping that they will not come in sufficient number as to alienate people in Africa. They are already doing it in Malawi, in Zambia, in Rwanda, and it's creating some tension. So African leaders must not accept investment and aid which undermine the ability of their own people to get jobs, because the whole purpose of coming is to create jobs. And once the jobs are not coming, there will be frustration. Frustration will lead to xenophobia. And that is what you have there.
And some of the jobs that are already here,
yes,
there's this talk about nationalization of some of those.
Yes.
What do you think of it?
No, really. When you talk about nationalization, you are going to an unnecessary level of escalation. You know, the dispute now is not between Nigeria and the South African government. What you want to do is to put pressure on the South African government to act more decisively in curtailing these violent attacks. It is not a dispute between government and government. Nigeria has no problem with South Africa, except that South Africa is being urged to do something more active, to get its security services to respond more appropriately. And South Africa itself to set up in motion the criminal justice system to prosecute all those who are responsible for this attack. Right. That is not happening yet now. And so that's why we need the pressure. But it's not about nationalizing and so on. That's when you begin to have problems with each other that you do that. It's not, you cannot escalate a conflict. There are levels of conflict and levels of responses, and we have not gotten there.
Do you think that's thought of nationalizing those foreign companies, especially of South Africa?
What you do with nationalization, you take away Nigerian jobs without really hurting those companies. I can assure you.
And it probably takes us back to 76 when we had that indigenization policy.
Yes.
In 1976, the government of General Olusegun Obasanjo then, and what happened? Remember the banks and all that. And I think there was this particular response that we had about foreign investment. I think this might also have an effect on foreign investment if we're looking to nationalize.
You have to look at the larger picture. At every quarrel, you nationalize.
Okay.
Who is going to bring this money here to invest? You are going to undermine our investment strategy, take away jobs from Nigerians who are working in multi-choice, MTN, and which other major companies here. So
several others, but
several others. Those are the ones who suffer, not really the companies.
All right, so that's a place where we'll leave it. Professor Femi Otobanjo is a public policy analyst and also a professor of political science and international relations at Christland University, Abeokuta. Thank you very much indeed for coming on this.
Thank you very much for having me. Have a good day.